Thank you for joining us again this week. We will begin with a replay of the song that started it all last week and then pick up right where we left off. If you don't want to hear it again, just skip forward about 11 minutes.
We're talking about currents and stones. My mind is also brought back to something else you find on Irish and Scottish beaches, and actually in lots of places in the world, which are stones that have holes bored in them by water over time. And they're often called the hag stones or witch stones. And a lot of people, they're supposed to be good luck, right? They're supposed to be protective, and a lot of people wear them around their necks or use them as ornaments. But one of the other stories about them that I love, and the reason it's coming back to me is because you were talking about Aztec black mirrors earlier. It's said in Ireland that if you hold up one of those hag stones or fairy stones, that it is actually a portal or a gate. And if you look through it, you can see into fairy. And you actually gifted me several a few years ago. But what's also interesting is we were talking about the magic Central and South America earlier. And the Aztecs used black mirrors to scry into, right? And those black mirrors were thought to be a gate or doorway into seeing alternate worlds, much like a hagstone is, right? As a matter of fact, not to bring this back around to angels, but we always do. And I probably brought this up on the podcast before, but sorry, guys, tough because it fits here. In the British Museum, there is a black Aztec mirror of polished obsidian, and it belonged to the magician John Dee. He was an advisor and court magician for, I believe it was Elizabeth I. And John Dee did some interesting stuff. The name of his assistant, who is also a very famous magician, is escaping me. I apologize. If we look this up, it'll come right back to me. Hang on. John Dee, astronomer, teacher, astrologer, occultist, and alchemist. He lived from 1527 to either 1608 or 1609. He was an English mathematician, astronomer, teacher, astrologer, occultist, and alchemist. He was the court astronomer for and advisor to Elizabeth I. He also spent a lot of time on Hermetic philosophy. He had one of the largest libraries in England. He eventually left her service and went on a quest for knowledge of the occult and supernatural. It's really interesting. This article says he aligned himself with several individuals who may have been charlatans. Oh, he absolutely did. Um, I'm looking for the name of his assistant, Edward Kelley. There it is. Okay. So I actually write about John Dee and Edward Kelley in my novels because at one point, Adamina Scott starts asking the magician, how many names have you traveled under while you were here on Earth? You know, he's a Fey magician. And she says something like, were you Edward Kelley? And he's like, absolutely not. Charlatan. And then she's like, were you John Dee? And he's like, yeah, baby. Like, I can't remember which one of them I had him being, but I bring it up. So John Dee has this mirror, this Aztec mirror, and he starts asking his assistant, Edward Kelley, to scry into it. And Edward Kelley starts bringing through a metric ton of information, including 3 magical alphabets. And John Dee becomes convinced that they are speaking to an angel. And actually, for those of you who love magical alphabets, you've probably heard of at least 2 of them. One is called Celestial. I actually have Samael's name in Celestial tattooed on me. Another one is called Passing the River. And I forget what the third one is, but they're considered angelic alphabets in the magical community. What a lot of people don't know is that So John Dee wasn't doing the scrying. He was making Edward Kelley do it, right? John Dee was like, we are talking to an angel. And Edward Kelley, who was actually in direct contact with this entity, became convinced that they were not, in fact, speaking to an angel, and begged John Dee to allow him to stop. And John Dee basically went, nope.
Jeez.
Yeah. But this mirror that was used for communication is in the possession of the British Museum, and you can go visit it when it's on display. And he somehow or another got an Aztec obsidian polished black mirror. And
So
it is
what is
probably the most famous of its kind.
that's really interesting. So what does Samael say about these alphabets?
I haven't sat down and talked to him about it, believe it or not. It's something that, like, I was aware of this sort of from history, and because I love black mirrors, I make my own. You can make black mirrors because the obsidian ones are insanely expensive and very, very heavy. And there are lots of places that sell them. And I'll tell you right now how to make one. But I will also tell you that lots of people have very strong interactions through black mirrors, and a lot of them just have a straight up aversion to it. When I do bring them to events, or I have brought them to markets before as well, I keep cloth over them. I keep them covered because they are said to be gateways where you can look into another world, but they can also look back, right? And there are an awful lot of people who walk into my fair booth, see black mirrors on display, go, nope, and turn around and just leave because they've either had such a strong experience with one or they're just wary of them. If it isn't the black mirrors that make them nope out, it's the haunted dolls, but I digress. There are two big reasons to nope out if although, because many people come in and go, I can never find these. Black Mirror is basically made by creating a dark reflective surface. So if you've ever sat in front of your TV at night when it is off and it's reflecting the room, you basically can use that television screen as a black mirror. I know they say don't put TVs in your bedrooms because, like, you'll stay up too late watching TV. I also say the secondary reason is how many of you cover that television and you might be creating a little doorway somewhere. Also, looking at a darkened window when it is night outside and you are inside a room with lights will often create a black mirror effect. What the black mirror essentially does is it's reflecting your reality, but it does it in a distorted way. And so, for example, I have a Lilithian black mirror protection invocation that whenever somebody purchases a black mirror from me or makes their own, I go, take this because you are basically opening the door and going, hey, who in another reality wants to talk? And just like you wouldn't walk out into a crowded street in a foreign city and put yourself at the mercy of strangers, you need to be protected. And I often run classes that have black mirrors in them, and I keep a very careful watch on people who are new to the practice. But essentially, what I do when I make them is you take like a picture frame and you take the glass out and you remove any picture that's there and you paint the back of the glass black. And then I also put like black silk or black felt or something behind it to create a truly dark surface. I also have a lovely secret mixture that I mix in with my paint that has to do with ashes and a bunch of other lovely things for blessing and protection. And then what most people do is set it up in a dark room. Actually, if you've read The Ballad of Bertie McLeod, they make a black mirror on board a ship in that book. And then people will put candles or some sort of flickering light source on either side of them as they look into the mirror. And like I said, use your protection with the combination of the distortion of the reflection looking into a mirror, which over time can also create distortions in your perception, and the effect of the flickering lights in the darkened room essentially open up a liminal space where you can journey. But people have can have very strong reactions. I have had people who borrowed a mirror from me at events and went to work with it and then came back and were like, I need to keep this mirror in my practice. Like, this is mine now. And I was like, great. And so it's a fascinating. Black mirrors, by the way, have been used in many cultures. We have some documentation of the ancient Celts using them, of the Chinese using them. So it's not just the Aztecs. We see it in different cultures around the world. And it's a pretty fascinating, scrying into bodies of water at night may also give a similar black mirror effect. And we have tons and tons and tons of lore about doing that as well.
Is there any kind of particular, because I know, like, for example, when using like a pendulum, you can set, or I've always very specifically set who can come through and who cannot, and
Yes.
that kind of thing. Can you do the same sort of thing with the black mirror where it's like, I am only
Absolutely.
going to speak with people with energies that are in alignment with my highest good, or, ask
Absolutely.
Archangel Michael or Samael or somebody to filter and choose? Because I'm always, with Archangel Michael, I'm always asking him to
Yeah.
kind of filter and only allow into the space that I'm working, or the pendulum. It's like him or someone that he allows to come through
Right.
because it's in the highest good. And it may be the highest good of my learning to have a certain kind of experience. So it still may not be pleasant, but I know that it's safe and held, and somebody knows very clearly who should be there or not.
Right. Absolutely. With any magical practice or divinatory or, walking into a liminal space practice, call in your guides, set up your protections. With me, I have a Lilithian invocation. It is rumored that certain types of entities are especially attracted to black mirrors. And the two that I have seen mentioned the most in my research are the dead and the fae. That apparently the fae, who have to be handled very carefully, are super interested a lot of times in talking through black mirrors. So, you know, and if you have another way that you're already talking to, like if you're already using your pendulum to talk to who you want to talk to, great. But if you wanted to try something different, then a black mirror is a very powerful way to do that. But absolutely, please set your intentions. I know for a fact, I don't know how much Edward Kelly and John Dee knew about the Aztec practices that went with that mirror that they got. Maybe
Probably
they
very
did, or
little.
maybe they didn't. Probably very little. They probably just went, hey, this is a cool piece of magical equipment that I hear is amazing. But we have to look at, where did that obsidian come from? Well, it came from across the world. It came from an Aztec culture. Were they talking to an angel? Maybe, but they also may have been talking to an Aztec god. Were they respectful as gentlemen magicians in Queen Elizabeth's court in the 15 and 1600s? Were they understanding exactly of what they were dealing with? And it certainly sounds like Edward Kelly did not think so.
Yeah, and how they came by that, that was taken clearly from its original place where it was used probably
Yeah.
for hundreds of years by people who had a very sacred connection with it, and then taken somewhere to be used, as
Yeah, we
opposed
don't
to
know.
working in, maybe in respectful relationship and right relationship with it. So,
Yeah,
that
we
could
have to
certainly
look
change what was coming through based on how they
right.
came by it, whether they really had a, I won't almost say a right, but whether they were in right relationship by even using it.
Yeah, we don't know. I don't know how it came into his possession. I mean, if you are the court astrologer for Queen Elizabeth I, you've got some clout and probably quite a bit of money as well. So
Yeah.
who knows how it came into his being? I mean, I don't know if he was a well-traveled man, but considering it was the 1500s, I highly doubt he went over and visited the Aztec cultures himself. And if he did, it would have been as a colonialist and probably not in a symbiotic relationship. So who knows what got sent over on that. Interestingly enough, the magical alphabets are gorgeous. They are beautiful. And I'm sitting here right now trying to remember the third one. Let me look up passing the river or crossing. I think it's passing the river.
Yeah, I was thinking, especially since those
Here,
came through that black mirror. Yeah, I would
yeah.
love to know, and I'm willing to sing for it
Oh no,
if Samael would like to comment
I'm
on
sorry.
the angelic.
Those I was wrong. Those alphabets were not John D. I was misremembering. They are Enochian. Sorry, that's why. So it's named after Enoch. That I'm getting different alphabets that are named after angels confused. Okay. So folks, to sum up, the passing the river, Malachim, and celestial were by Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, who I'm sure you've heard of, the philosopher, right? And scientist. Enochian is the occult constructed languages. Here we go. I'm sorry, I'm using Wikipedia. Here we go. Enochian is an occult constructed language said by its originators to have been received from angels, recorded in the private journals of John Dee and his colleague Edward Kelley in the late 16th century England. Kelley was a scryer who worked with Dee in his magical investigations. The language is integral to the practice of Enochian magic. Sorry, folks, senior moment, got my angelic languages confused from the 15th century. Um, and there's a bit more about it. Oh, here's why. These journals also refer to this language as celestial speech, first language of God Christ, holy language, or language of angels. He also referred to it as Adamical, spelled like Adam, Adam, because according to Dee's angels, it was used by Adam in paradise to name all things. The term Enochian comes from Dee's assertion in the biblical patriarch Enoch. And John Dee believed had been that Enoch, which we know has ties to Metatron, had been the last human before Dee and Kelley to know the language. Sorry, I got celestial and celestial confused. There will be a public flogging of Tava Baird by the listeners of this podcast at a place to be determined by you.
You are allowed to make mistakes just like the rest of us.
Okay, good. Ah, I got a
Oh,
Nokian mixed up with Celestial. My bad.
goodness. There is so much. My brain is oozing out of my ears. I'm trying to remember the original words that he had said. And I'm thinking again about that image. I'm really interested in that image that you drew. And I realize I don't think we haven't done any kind of much description for the people that, because nobody's going to be able to see it because it's not going to be
Yeah.
on YouTube forever. So the image that Tava drew, there's a big long vertical line with an eye at the very top. At the very bottom, there's a line across the bottom that sort of seems like a stand. And then just up from the stand, a little ways up, there's a place where two wings are kind of connected to that center line and they go up and out. And they go out pretty far and then up to where the top of the wings on either side are just about level with the bottom of the eye at the top. But in the space between the wings is a diamond shape that is an equilateral kind of diamond with a line going across connecting the two outer points, which creates an equal armed cross. So there's really a square turned at an angle like a diamond that has an equal armed cross in it, but that line continues down between the wings and has the base, and then the bottom of the eye touches the top point of the diamond. So I
You
don't
know
know
what
if that's any more clear at
you,
all. There are so many episodes where one or both of us are showing things that we've drawn and we're trying to explain it to people, and
right.
we hadn't been able to figure out how we could link a picture to things, and so I think that would be great.
And we could create one long blog post with photographs. We could put in, this is the Samael and Michael sigil we got. This is the illustration that came through on the July 14th podcast. This is the picture that Jen got. And I could just add to that post over time. And we could just use that same link every time. And they could just go, bloop, okay, there's the picture I'm looking for.
Yeah, that would be
So,
great because there's so
yeah,
many now where
yeah.
I'm looking at. I'm
I'm
like,
starting to
we're
realize,
describing so many different things.
yeah,
We could just list it as
yeah.
episode whatever drawing of such and such, and
Here we go, episode this drawing. And I can even put up things there, like I can put up the text there of the Lilithian invocation for when you're using a black mirror and you want protection. And you can use that invocation for a lot of things. I also have an image, and there are prints of it that will probably go up in the Etsy shop tonight, but it is an illustration of an invocation to the 8-day teachers when you were traveling outside of your body. So being able to see that so that you could read it if you needed it might be a good thing too. So I could pop that image up there. Yeah, I'll create a space on the website. I should be able to do that tonight for our images, and then people can pop on there.
yeah, that would
Um,
be great.
yeah, that would be really good. Yeah, I mean, it's really funny. You've heard of lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. I feel like this episode is stones and snakes and gardens. Oh my. Um,
Boy, and
because
I don't
there's
have
a
any
lot.
idea how long that thing I was doing was, but it was long because I was at one point I was like, okay, we really like Michael, can you maybe explain to her about podcasts, and this needs to be short? And I don't remember what her response was, but it was very clear that it was like, you don't tell me how long this is. And I was like, okay, got it. We can always edit. Maybe this becomes something else. But yeah, who am I to decide that, like, we really need to keep it within a reasonable amount of time? It was like, we're doing something important here. You don't tell me that I need to wrap it
I
up.
am speaking. Yeah,
I
like
was like, oh,
goddess is
yeah, sorry about
speaking.
that.
Yeah, it's sort of like me yesterday going, Samael, you want me to do what? And him going, this is what happens. Like
Yeah.
with him having me pass on about half my bone kit. I was like, how am I supposed to read? And he's like, it needs to be done. She's better at it than you are.
Yeah,
Oh,
there was definitely a sense of being called down a bit. It was like,
yes.
yeah, that's not
Yes.
how this works. I'm like,
Human, I see farther than you do. Yes, exactly.
yeah, I was like,
Um,
sorry.
Speaking of which, it might be time for another song, I'm thinking.
I think it is. Lord help us.
I know, I'm like,
Ooh.
maybe we'll just put the notebook aside. No, that's not
Yeah, I'm
gonna happen.
like, do I ask for a suggestion to end it?
What about,
Or
and
should we just
this is
go?
coming
We
from
just
me, not
decide.
him. What about a song, something to bring through maybe like clarity? Because I literally feel like Samael walked into the room and just dropped a bag of flour and it's everywhere in 90 different directions, to be like, what do you want us to, what is the first thing you want us to take away from this today?
Yeah.
What, like, we understand that we need to start looking at patterns around us, not just beings around us, but the energy and records of place. And that sometimes the currents that we're in are best abandoned rather than fought, and that it's going to take us time to know and understand those things. But maybe he'll be able to give us, I don't know, a little something else. I did find it interesting. One other quick thing before you sing. There was a phrase he said, how aspects are often the blended energy of companions. I thought that was neat because he has
Yes.
talked about you and I spend time together. I carry around some of your energy, you carry around some of mine. I spend time with Samael, I carry around some of his energy, he's got a little bit of mine, right? That perhaps this concept of aspects has more to do with us sensing the energy, a strong connection between beings rather.
Yeah, this really makes me think. Remember before we got on, I was talking about having a question about their different beings being different emanations of the same overall energy. And that made me, when you said that, I was thinking that it felt like it tied into is, you know, is the lioness of God a higher emanation of Sekhmet? Is Ariel a higher emanation of the lioness of God, who is a higher emanation of Sekhmet? Or, and I mean higher not in hierarchical, but higher as in closer to source, closer to the all, the quote unquote lower aspects, they're easier for us to identify with because their vibration is a little bit lower and it's
Yes.
easier for us to relate to them. And as you get used to relating to them, then you sort of open up like an aspect of them that is closer to the all that you can then learn to relate to that. So that's what I mean by higher emanation, not necessarily like better or that kind of thing, but that we often need something that is closer to our own earthly vibration. And that's why they might emanate that way. But then what he was just saying makes me wonder if they just work in the same circle so much that they carry some of each other's energy. And that's why they get confused.
But it's interesting here too. He just said it is both. That sometimes what we are doing is we are sensing an influence or an energy between entities, but that when the divine speaks from the divine all, essentially they are all in between lives. You and I won't necessarily be aspects of each other, but I will carry what I learned from you in this life, and you will carry what you learned from me. And when we are returned to the all, we will be even closer. So, and he just had me draw this basically an arrow going up and an arrow going down. If we're thinking of higher vibration, right? He says that a human vibration, not exactly in the middle, but somewhere in the middle, that there are extremes of high vibration and extremes of low vibration as well. So when an energy is more centered, oh, is that why we need to aim for balance? Because we're that a major extreme of either high or low can knock us sideways and we might not be able to process it. That our energy is sort of somewhere, depending on who we are and the magic that we do, somewhere in kind of a nebulous cloud in the middle. What? He says that's why if I start to get pulled too high, I don't feel right in my body. And some people, if they're not used to being around the dead, if they get pulled too low, they don't feel right in their body. They feel sick. So he's saying that there are different vibrations with different entities, and they're not static. They kind of morph and change over time based on the experiences and interactions that those entities have. So I have a core, I guess, what? Like a central energy and consciousness that is my own, but it is affected more so perhaps because I am embodied. I am picking up on lots of energy from knowing you and that is going to affect my overall energy. So he's saying it is hard to draw a complete distinction between this is just one entity and this is just another, because they affect and learn from each other over time. And all of that learning goes back to a collective all that they are also a part of. He said boundaries are more important for you because you are in a physical world composed of boundaries than they are to us. I don't know if any of that just made any sense.
I think it does. It's almost like rather than thinking of it as a vertical line with three circles, maybe like Sekhmet at the bottom, and then above that is the Lioness of God, and above that is Ariel, that it's more like a flower of life where
Yes.
there are all these things, but they're overlapping each other in so many different ways and they're learning from each other. And I guess like a flower of life, if they were all in the sphere form and they're all sort of moving and changing and overlapping to where it's not like one clear line of one specific energy or entity, but there's so much overlap in the energies that they work with that naturally certain beings are going to have similar energies that you feel because they've not only worked together, but they also work with the same overarching energy of grace or forgiveness or protection or truth or clarity or something like that.
Okay, hold on. I've got something coming through here. Oh, Samael just said different entities have different purposes. In example, I am a fallen. My purpose at this time is to teach, but Michael, my brother, is at all times in my heart and sustains me. So Samael and Michael have different purposes right now, right? Michael's out there cutting open gates and, doing Michael's thing. And Samael is doing Samael's thing. But Samael and Michael have so much influence on each other that if you were to look into Samael's soul, he has crafted so much of it around the love of his brother that he carries Michael's energy with him wherever he goes. And it will be hard for us to pick apart where Michael stops and where Samael begins if we were to look somehow at the energy of which he is composed at times because of the love he carries for his brother. Similarly, Samael has a great and deep and everlasting love of Lilith, but Lilith brings a human energy and understanding that he might not have been able to fathom before the advent of her in his existence. And so Lilith and his exposure to her energy may have made him more understanding of what it is to be human, which might make him a better teacher of us humans and a better guide. Where exactly does Lilith's influence stop in his form? Well, he doesn't really have concrete physical form, so this is going to be hard to tell. But what we do know is that his love for her has changed him. So I'm guessing that when you have two entities that appear to be aspects, like it's interesting, Jennifer Gerlando says she understands Azrael to be an aspect of Samael. I'm sure there's a relationship there, although he never speaks about it. Are we simply understanding Samael through an Azrael lens? Is Azrael a completely separate being, but they both have similar purposes? And so their energy is extremely similar in some ways? And I guess the other question about this is, does it matter if they are always growing and changing in the all, just as we are, exactly where the line is? I can't pick out exactly where my love for you stops and starts, my friend. But I do know that you are now of me and I am of you. Yet we remain separate and together.
That is really beautiful. And yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I wonder too, if our individual understandings of the different, entities and things that we work with has a lot to do with how is it that we are most likely to be able to have the most resonance with a message, and
Yes.
so our individual understanding is shaped by the way that they show up for us based on where is our energy, where is our vibration, what's least likely to throw us off of our energy based on where we are, and what aspect of that and what image of that, because sometimes we talked about how like my experience of Samael is very much kind of filtered through Michael's. And so I feel Samael differently than you feel Samael because
Yes.
Michael is so close and always around me that I'm never not feeling Michael's energy. So I'm feeling Samael through that. And so if I didn't know that, I might think that Samael was a different aspect of
Yes.
of Michael. Depending on the version that's most resonant with us, then we may get other beings that are coming through or feel that piece of the energy that they carry of others. And then, in our humanness, we try to put everything into boxes and go, are you this or that? Are you this or that? And they're all a part of the all. And it's really probably just more a matter of how much of each thing are they carrying as opposed to this versus that one.
And what are we ready to let in? And we do see all of the entities through a lens of our own culture and our own experience. So you might have somebody who says, I'm much more comfortable communicating with this particular energy. This is what can be in symbiosis with my energy at this moment. Then
Yeah.
as my understanding deepens, that expands, right? Samael just said, where are the boundaries of love? Where does my love for you start and your love for me end? Beauty starts when the line falls away. And remember that in all things, our purpose is union.
I love it. Thank you for bringing that through. That is really
Absolutely.
beautiful and really, really helpful. It completely reframes everything.
Yeah. We have a human desire to say, I'm talking to X from X culture, from this stuff, but the the lines are actually a lot more blurry than that. And it reminds me of, when you really love someone, when you are holding a little child, or you are holding hands or embracing someone who is important to you, it is a shockingly awe inspiring thing when you get to the place where you cannot tell where they stop and you begin, right? And that's an incredible thing to achieve in a body. But there are times when you're falling asleep, tangled up in another being that you love. where you can't quite be sure whose arm is the one you're lying on right now. And that's a little bit of being in the all. That's a little bit of divinity, or as they might say, a little slice of heaven.
Absolutely. All right, I will bring through a song and
Thank you. It's lovely. I
thank you.
have a little something to go with it from Samael. Love, a simple word for a state beyond words. To love on this earth is to aid in the existence of another as they search for their own nature once again. And in that search, divine pattern is discovered. Let us return to the garden. Let us contemplate the planting of the tree. It was done, my friends, perhaps not for the humans so much as for the tree, as a model of what they might do, that they might love another being so foreign from themselves by covering its offspring with soil so that it might grow. A sign of respect, an act of symbiosis, and of curiosity. And the tree brought forth knowledge in return, the knowledge of nourishment and growth and stability, of comfort and companionship, and how they might be drawn from an entity with a foreign body. And now it is said that to eat from that tree, to accept an energy in return for a kindness, is forbidden. Do not believe it. Plant, friends, and eat of the tree. It is worth noting that some of our very old texts say that Samael was the one who planted the tree in the Garden of Eden. And I find this interesting in that instead of just thinking we have this forbidden tree, we think about what the lesson might have been in planting it in the first place.
That's really amazing.
Go out and get yourself some fruit, guys. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing through everything you brought through, Jen. It was a gift and one sorely needed after so long away.
Oh, and right back to you. I'm really honored to have gotten to hear all of those words and all that you brought through, and just to get to spend time with you again.
It is a good thing. Our energies merge and grow, and there are
Indeed.
no limits of love. Until next time, folks, stay safe, stay well, and know that we are with you.